But I would still go through the motions, just remind people you don't have an in-person quorum, but date, time, location, whatever. All right, so you're recording. It's recording, Hazel.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. I apologize. I had every intention on being there today in person, but I got a little bit of food poisoning. This is the Transportation Committee meeting of Bronx Community Board 11. Today is Monday, October 2nd, and the meeting has started at 7:09. Sorry, I'm just trying to, I have two phones and I'm trying to just get the agenda on one of them. So as I said, my name is, I don't know if I said it, but my name is Hazel Mura. I am the co-chair. Can everybody just introduce themselves, everybody on the committee? First, can you guys hear me okay?
We could hear you, Hazel. Moshe
Okay.
Fuchs introducing himself. I introduced myself.
Debbie,
Yes, we hear you.
can you introduce yourself, hon?
Yeah, I'm trying to. I'm Debbie Kowalik, Transportation Committee.
Mariel Holcomb, Transportation Committee.
Juan Jones, Transportation Committee.
Ryan Barthel, Transportation Committee.
Cynthia Rodriguez, Community Board Member.
Right, Community Board Member.
Christine Culpepper, Board Member.
That's it, that's here.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we don't have a quorum, unfortunately. So we're not going to be able to vote on any of the motions. And I think they were just going to be on street activity permits. I don't remember anything else coming up. But we do have the Metro North here, and they're going to be doing a presentation. So why don't we just jump right into that? Who's the representative from the Metro North?
Good evening, Joe O'Donnell, MTA Construction and Development. How are you?
Good, sir. How are you?
Good, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Appreciate you all having us here tonight, and I hope you feel better with your bout of food poisoning.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Jeremy, do I have the ability to share? Because I have a presentation if it's possible.
Jeremy?
Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes, we see it.
Great. So as the co-chair mentioned, we are here tonight to talk to you about the Penn Station Access Project. Just again, for the record, and for those of you who may not know me, my name is Joe O'Donnell. I'm the Director of Government and Community Relations for MTA Construction and Development. We are the arm of the MTA who is delivering this project on behalf of Metro North Railroad. We've been out and we've met with the community board multiple times throughout the design phase of this project. And then once we got into construction in 2021, once we awarded the project, so we've been meeting relatively regularly, almost quarterly, if not quarterly, with the exception of the summers when folks are on hiatus. So we are now getting back into our regular cadence with this update to reorient everybody on the project and where we are. So for those of you who do know me and know the project, bear with me for a minute or two as we go through some background information on the project so that everybody's speaking the same language and we're level setting, if you will. And then I'll get into the more current information or the substance of the update, which is what everybody's here for this evening. So just briefly, I'll go over a project overview, what our long-term outage was and what the progress to date is, our project schedule and a recovery strategy for what was or was not accomplished during that long-term outage, what our upcoming work looks like, give you a sense of what some of our community engagement has been, and then obviously we'll provide our contact information as well as, kick it back to the co-chair for any questions and answers you might have. And just also for the record and for the co-chair's awareness, I know you don't have quorum tonight. We're not looking for anything to be voted on tonight, but we will provide you, and I'm pretty sure my communications team, Talia, is on tonight. I think we shared this presentation with you in advance, so you should have it for your website and to distribute to your membership as you see fit. So anybody who couldn't make it tonight would still have the ability to review the deck should you have any questions or concerns. So again, just as a bit of a project overview, this is the Penn Station Access Project that is going to bring Metro North service into Penn Station for the first time. In the process of bringing that service into Penn Station, we're also going to create 4 new accessible stations in the Bronx. This is a transit equity project to bring service to an underserved area of our network and of the community. And we anticipate that on average, this new service will save folks upwards of 50 minutes each way in their commute times. I'll go through a little bit of the time savings in a minute, further on into the presentation. And what that contemplates is what folks need to do to get from point A to point B right now, utilizing the available mass transit that they have at their disposal. So not jumping in a car and, going from, as the crow flies today, but the circuitous route that one would have to take utilizing existing mass transportation today. I'll talk a little bit about the regional transportation connectivity that this project will achieve, the upgrades that we're going to do to Amtrak's Hellgate line and to bring that to a state of good repair. We are, as I mentioned, Metro North, bringing Metro North service here. We are the MTA. This property and this right-of-way is an Amtrak right-of-way. It is owned and operated by Amtrak, so we are merely going to be a tenant here once we bring our service here. So we are beholden to Amtrak, not only for access to do our work, but also oversight. They need to have folks on site as we're doing work to make sure that it complies with their rules and regulations. So as I get a little further on in the presentation, we'll talk a little bit about what some of that relationships and the symbiosis that goes on there. And then there will be an expansion of the New Rochelle Yard. There is an existing New Rochelle Yard. You can see at the northern portion of this map on the right-hand side of the screen. But we're going to be expanding that yard to accommodate all of the new service and also to provide, maintenance to the, the fleet there. So I mentioned that we're going to be bringing, we're going to be bringing 4 Metro North stations to the Bronx. Those stations you can see in the, tangerine color. So there is a station at Hunts Point, Parkchester, Van Nest, Morris Park, and Co-op City. For the purposes of Community Board 11, you would be most interested in the Morris Park station and the Van Nest station. We're also going to be upgrading the infrastructure, as I mentioned, along with the new track and rail that we'll be installing. We're going to have to put in new power in order to accommodate the additional service. So there's going to be a host of substations. If you see in the lime color there's going to be a New Rochelle substation, the Co-op City substation, a Van Nest substation, and then down at the south, an Oak substation. Some of the key infrastructure that we're going to be doing is bridge work. There's going to be some bridge replacement work you can see in red, as well as interlockings. Now, interlockings are critical because unlike a car or even a truck, trains can't just turn on a dime. We need to be able to switch them from one track to another, not only so that they can, move around unobstructed, but also in this particular instance, so that we can do our work safely and efficiently, either upstream or northstream of that interlocking. If you see at the bottom of the screen, Leggett interlocking, Leggett is critical to this project. We've already started work on Leggett, and in fact, we started the procurement of the elements needed to advance Leggett before we even awarded the project, we started to procure some of those long lead items. Because what that's going to do is once we get Leggett installed, and we've already started it, and we hope to have it all commissioned by next year, what that's going to do is it's really going to allow us that critical wrench time that we need for our crews to advance the track work, the station work, once the stations get going, without fear of a Amtrak train bearing down on them, because we'll be able to move those Amtrak trains off of the tracks that we're working on and onto other tracks, so that they can move around with minimal impacts to their service, and our folks can work safely. The overall project benefits, I mentioned the decreased travel times, but it's also, the project is expected to increase economic vitality. It's going to support the local and regional economy. This is going to be both in the short term and the long term. In the short term, there's going to be construction-induced spending in these neighborhoods that we're delivering the project in. We're also looking to procure materials and goods and services here in the community. And then in the long term, it's going to make these areas, which are typically difficult to get to right now, that much more attractive to work and even live for folks. So places like Morris Park, where you have on one side of the tracks the medical complex and Einstein Montefiore, and on the other side of the track, you have a very vibrant commercial corridor in Hutch Metro Center. So this is going to make it that much easier for those areas to attract world-class talent and world-class companies, because they know they can get into and out of the areas that much more easily. It's going to bridge communities, literally and figuratively. We're going to connect communities with the train service, but we're also going to bridge communities like Morris Park, where folks will now be able to get from one side of the track to the other, from that medical complex to the Hutch Metro Center and the hotel there, for instance, just by utilizing the overhead passageway for our new station. From a sustainability standpoint, we're hopeful that this new service is going to encourage folks to get out of cars and into trains. So more passengers on the trains means less cars on the road, less greenhouse gases, less traffic. This is going to create real or true reverse commuting opportunities. Not only is this going to create a one-seat ride into Manhattan's West Side Central Business District, but it's going to allow folks from points south, like New York or even New Jersey, Long Island, to get out to the Bronx. And then it'll allow Bronxites to go to points north, like Westchester or even Stamford, which are vibrant job centers. I mentioned the existing infrastructure here. We're taking Amtrak's 2-track railroad and essentially turning it into a 4-track railroad. The vast majority of this project is going to be executed with inside Amtrak's right-of-way, with the exception of the stations, which will have some vertical circulation elements that will touch down outside of the right-of-way. But we're not, there's not very much disruption to the outside community here, which is a plus. And it's also more cost effective, because we're taking something that's already there and adaptively reusing it and making it, or allowing it to achieve its maximum potential. This project is going to expand regional transportation connectivity. I mentioned being able to go into Penn Station. So for the first time now, Metro North service will go into Penn Station, where you'll be able to connect to Long Island Railroad. You'll be able to connect to New York City subway. You'll be able to connect to New Jersey Transit and the PATH, as well as the bus network. And then it's also going to create enhanced network reliability. Right now, there is a single point of failure for Metro North service into and out of Manhattan, as we saw with Superstorm Sandy, with the viaduct, even as recently as last week with the rain that we've got, and knocked out Metro North service. This provides a secondary lifeline for Metro North into and out of Manhattan. Here's that table that I mentioned, talks a little bit about travel times and time savings. So for instance, Morris Park, right now today, utilizing existing mass transit options, if you were to go from Morris Park to Penn Station, it takes approximately 60 minutes. Fast forward to 2027, when we start revenue service for this project, and it'll take approximately 25 minutes. So that's an average trip time savings of 35 minutes. If you're a Bronxite looking to go north, like to Westchester or even Stamford, to the bustling business center in Stamford, presently takes you approximately 95 minutes. Fast forward to revenue service, and it'll take about 40 minutes, which is a 55-minute time savings. So this is a game changer for folks. When we plotted this out over time, using a 20-minute trip time savings for the Second Avenue subway, that 20 minutes each way a day, 40 minutes a day. I went into communications because I don't do math, so I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but over a week, over a month, over a year, it comes out to approximately 3 days worth of time saved that folks aren't commuting, and then they can do things that they more enjoy than commuting or sitting on a train or in traffic, with that time saving, spending time with loved ones, pursuing hobbies, healthy activities. So, as I mentioned, this project is being executed inside the Amtrak right-of-way. So we're going to be doing a lot of improvements for Amtrak and the freight railroad while we're here. We're going to be upgrading their infrastructure so that it improves the on-time performance and reliability for their intercity passengers. It's going to bring Amtrak's Hellgate line into a state of good repair. We're going to be updating their existing catenary system, which is the overhead power system. We're going to be upgrading 100-plus-year-old bridge structures, which are, quickly getting to the end of their useful life. We're going to be upgrading electrical systems, signal, and state-of-the-art communication systems. And, just as I mentioned with this rain incident and severe weather incident that we had this past weekend, we're going to be doing significant enhancements to the stormwater management and the drainage system all along the line here, which is going to significantly not only improve Amtrak's ability to run service, but heading off any potential issues for Metro North once we get up and running there. So what you have here is a conceptual rendering of what the station will look like. It follows existing Metro North guidelines for design. So a lot of glass, you have your wooden inlay or underlay underneath the roof structure. You're going to have your New York State blues and yellows. There will be art components for each of these stations. They'll have their own distinct artist and own unique art proposal for each of these stations. So we'll have more on that as the project progresses. And then on the left-hand side of the screen, you see the entrance and the platform area for the Parkchester Van Ness station. So the main entrance or the front entrance for the station will be on East Tremont Avenue. It'll be on literally East Tremont Avenue is the dividing line between the two community boards here and Van Ness and Parkchester. So it'll be on the Van Ness side of the street, if you will, right across the street from the Parkchester apartment complex. There will also be a secondary entrance at the Unionport Road Bridge. So there will be two ways to get into and out of this station. And then you see the platform running along East Tremont Avenue there. Some of our stations do have entrances on both sides of the tracks. We don't have one on the opposite side of the tracks here on the north side, if you will, because as you can see, that would send folks over into the existing Con Ed substation, and we don't want to do that. For the Morris Park station, you have, as I mentioned, entrances on both sides of the tracks here. So on the what we call Bassett Avenue public side, that would be on the Montefiore side or the medical complex side. And then on the south side of the tracks, Bassett Avenue private, you'd be coming down proximate to the Residence Inn by Marriott over there on the Hutch Metro Center side. So two entrances and a center platform here at Morris Park. As you can see on the right side of the screen again, glass and wood, very tastefully done. All of these stations, as I mentioned in the intro, will be accessible stations. So there will be elevators as well as the staircases. As I mentioned, we've been working very collaboratively with Amtrak to execute this work. One of the things that we needed from them was a long-term outage, and that allowed us to take a single track out of service in order to execute our work. So that, again, before we have this Leggett interlocking in place, we can have our crews doing the work that they need to do. Right now, a lot of preliminary work, clearing, grubbing, prepping the areas, for leveling, and the tracks, putting down ballast. We also have some support walls going up for retaining walls and the catenary structures. So I'll talk a little bit about the long-term outage, some of the major milestones, progress to date, and then Leggett. So that long-term outage that we negotiated with Amtrak, that allowed us to work unobstructed on the right of way or on the tracks that we were working on from March 6th through September 1. So just last month that concluded. It was designed to improve construction efficiency and productivity, again, allowing us to do that or have that efficient wrench time so that we aren't picking up and moving every time a train has to come by. And then it also provided the design builder with, as I mentioned, with larger windows to advance critical work along the track. During that time period, we completed several milestones or advanced several milestones. We completed the removal of 3 miles of existing CSX track 5. We completed the installation of a CSX E-switch. We completed the track reprofiling, which is that regrading and leveling. And you can see at the bottom of the screen, some of the catenary work on the left-hand side of the screen, the demolition of the track 5, that CSX track 5 that I mentioned, and the installation of that track switch, that CSX E-switch. You can see where the workers are in the middle of that photo on the right-hand side of the screen, where trains would cross over from one track to the other. Some of the other progress to date that's not necessarily complete, but in progress, and we were able to get a good chunk of it done in Van Nest. We got 72% of the overhead catenary system foundations installed. We got 39% of the drainage completed. A lot of bridge work going on. We had 25% of the work executed at the Eastchester Road Bridge, 15% at Bronxdale Ave Bridge. I mentioned some of those retaining walls. 21% of retaining wall 3 was completed, 60% of retaining wall 2, and 80% of retaining wall 13. I mentioned the criticality of Leggett. Again, this is going to allow us increased operational flexibility. It's going to allow us to get that critical wrench time and maximize those long-term outages. We were able to get 60% of the Leggett interlocking complete to date. We've completed the overhead catenary foundation installation, as I mentioned. Excuse me. 90% of the drainage system was installed, and we anticipate commissioning that Leggett interlocking, and that means getting it all tested and approved and put into service in late Q1 or early Q2 of 2024. So project schedule and recovery. The long-term outage was not as successful as we hoped. So we're going to be seeking a second long-term outage from Amtrak in 2024. So we're currently negotiating that. Right now, we need that coordination with Amtrak because without Amtrak's participation, then we have limited access and support from their force account staff. And again, not only do we need their okay to do the work inside the right of way, we need them to actually have personnel on site overseeing the work. So it's not enough to just give us the approval to work. They have to have folks on site to oversee the work as well. And then there's obviously the regional schedule coordination because we don't want to negatively impact Amtrak while we're doing this work. So what we're doing right now is we're working on, securing that second long-term outage, and we're studying the impact analysis of what would happen if we're not able to secure that long-term outage, and then a recovery schedule as to how we mitigate any time delays if we can't get that secondary outage. So the recovery strategy really is to secure that second long-term outage in the spring of 2024 with Amtrak, install some engineering controls to make sure that Amtrak is comfortable with the way that we deliver this project so that they may allow us to do some work without as much oversight. So if they're confident in our designs and confident in our means and methods, they may not need to have as many folks on site, which means we may not need to be as beholden to them to have folks on site, because that's been one of the problems thus far, is they just don't have the manpower. And then ultimately, we're going to work with Amtrak, the MTA to help them increase their force account. So that's going to be, working with Amtrak, whether it's MTA sponsors some trainings or some hiring of additional Amtrak force account. So we're studying all of that as possible ways to mitigate against any future delays to this project. And the notable work coming up for 2023 and 2024, you know, we're in the end of 2023 here. So you were gonna start the sort of marquee elements, which is the station work. So at Morris Park and Co-op City, we're gonna start preparing sites for the foundations for those stations. You know, a lot of this work has been stealth to date, but now that folks will start seeing stations taking shape, they'll really see that the project is moving along, and you know, it'll create a bit of excitement and buzz. We're going to complete the micro pile installation for the Bronxdale and Eastchester Road bridges, commence demolition work at the Bronxdale Avenue and Eastchester Road, as well as Pelham and Bronx River bridges. So that work's going to be coming up in the next 3 months of this year and the first 3 months of next year. We're going to complete the overhead Cassian system, which is the actual overhead wiring and the portal installation. The caisson, sorry, I said Cassian. But we're going to begin the caisson installation at Hunts Point and Morris Park, and then complete the overhead catenary system portal installation, signal work, and the retaining walls and legged interlocking. So that's all the work coming up in 23 and the beginning of 24. So still a lot going on over the winter. You probably saw the notices. Our community outreach team not only went out door to door publicly flyering, but we did distribute via email updates on the work at Bronxdale Avenue Bridge. You know, so that area of the bridge is going to be reduced to one travel lane in each direction. So there's lane closures and temporary parking restrictions between Poplar Street and Sackett Avenue. Those are in place in both directions. Those were going on over the summer, but there's additional ones that started in September going on or about September 25th for about 6 months. I mentioned community engagement. You know, we have been out and about. I know we took a little bit of a hiatus in terms of our interaction with the community boards over the summer. But we were out just prior to summer at the Hunts Point Spring Mingle. We had last year, in 2022, we had our eminent domain procedure law. You can see those highlights on the left-hand side of the screen. Also in 2022, we had our jobs information event in Morris Park. We had a public groundbreaking with the governor in December of 2022. And then we've continued our outreach meetings with Bronx community-based organizations and our Bronx Westchester Community Council. We also more recently, as everybody started coming back from the summer, we participated last week in City Council Land Use and Department of City Planning had a meeting, a public workshop virtually on their upzoning that they're looking to do along the 4 stations here. So they had a meeting on that, the rezoning process and what that's going to look like. Obviously, you know, our work is not directly tied to that, but is certainly related because of the fact that, you know, part of the reason for the rezoning here is to, you know, make accommodations for all the additional service and the ability for folks to get to and from the Bronx. So we participated in those meetings. We also had a Bronx Westchester community meeting, community council meeting in September. And tomorrow, as a matter of fact, we will be in Parkchester as part of the city council and city planning's visioning series or exercise on this rezoning. They're actually doing a public workshop, and we'll have a table there to provide information. So if you are planning to come to that meeting, feel free to stop by, say hello, and get some of our, you know, the project fact sheets and things of that nature. Happy to answer any questions that you might have that we don't get to tonight. So with that, I'll close out by providing everybody with our contact information. There is a dedicated project hotline. This is for questions and concerns about the project. If it is an emergency, I urge you to call 911. But with questions or concerns about the project, schedule, timeline, things of that nature, what the nature of the work that you're seeing is, feel free to call this number, 347-263-7837. Similarly, we have a dedicated PSA outreach email. That's psaoutreach@mtacd.org. You can send any questions or concerns or requests for information to that email, and we'll happily get back to you. There is a dedicated project website with the link on the page. Not only is that website a repository for information like this presentation, we post all of our presentations there and updates on the project itself. But you can sign up, to get direct email updates anytime we send out email blasts on any changes in work, any publicly facing work, any changes in means and methods or potentially noisy work. We would send out an email blast to let folks know what's coming before it gets there. And you can tailor these email updates to be as specific as you like. So if you only want to know about Morris Park, or if you only want to know about Van Nest or Parkchester or Hunts Point for that matter, you can check those boxes and receive updates on just those stations or as many stations as you like, and you can opt out at any time you like. So co-chair, at this point, I'd like to turn it back over to you for any questions that you all may have, and happy to stick around and answer as many as you like.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Joe. That was very informative. So I'm going to have, just to move the meeting along, I'm gonna allow 2 questions from everybody right now. So Debbie, do you want to start? Oh, wait, Rabbi, do you have any questions?
I'm good.
Okay. Debbie?
Yeah, Bernadette has joined us. Bernadette has a question, so I'm letting her ask first.
Bernadette, how are
Okay.
you?
Hi, Joe. How are you doing?
Good, thanks. Good to see you again.
Thank you. Sorry I was late. I'm glad things are moving along because everybody is out there watching, as we go past the work that's being done. But I was aware of the workshop tomorrow night. So I have a question about that, and you probably will be able to answer it. Is this workshop going to be asking about surrounding area questions, or is it overall questions?
So the primary goal of the workshop tomorrow is really a city council land use and Department of City Planning workshop to talk about first mile, last mile, and all of those things beyond our station, the stuff that we're delivering. But we're also going to be there to talk about our project as needed. We're going to have a table or a booth, and you can come up and ask questions about our project and to answer any questions in the overall program that they may have as it relates to this project. But the focus of it really is the first mile, last mile stuff that goes beyond our station.
Okay. Are there going to be other workshops with regards to Morris Park and Parkchester Van Nest train stations? Are there going to be other workshops happening besides the one that was last week and the one that's happening tomorrow night that you're aware of?
They have one planned in every station area.
Okay.
And I can send you over those dates, or I can send Jeremy the dates for.
Send it to Jeremy.
Okay.
Okay, and I just want everybody to know that the information for tomorrow night, I posted on all the websites before I came here. So any of this particular information is on the Community Board 11, the Friends of, the Citizens Up. So I saw that Kay had a question about it. So they are up on our social media. So if anybody else needs anything other than that, just I could send it to Jeremy, and he could send it out to everybody, to all the board members. So that's all my questions.
Great.
I have a question. Hold on. You got a question? You got a question?
No.
I have a question. I already know the answer, but I'll ask it anyway. Are we doing anything for parking?
So yes and no. I mean, the long and short of it is there's no parking associated with this project. Technically, there's no budget or scope inside the Metro North Penn Station Access Project for parking. That said, there are going to be areas designated for kiss and ride for pickups and drop-offs. And as I mentioned, City Council and Department of City Planning is taking a good hard look, and they've heard a lot, as we have heard a lot, about concerns over increased traffic and parking in these station areas. So they're taking a good hard look at that. And we're also not precluding any future development. It just isn't part of this 2027 timeline that we have right now as part of this, the delivery of this project.
Okay, thank you. Christine? Oh, now you had a question? Okay.
Since we mentioned parking, what about for bicycles and things like that? I know you said it's pursuant to the guidelines, but I'm not sure
Yeah,
what those
there
are.
will be dedicated parking areas at all 4 stations for bicycles, secure parking areas.
So you got secure parking for bikes and
What about security?
Christine?
Hi, Joe. My name is Christine Culpepper, and I heard you mention impact studies. And I just wanted to know, like, do you have some examples of the different types of impact studies that MTA is doing? If there is a place available to look at those impact studies?
Yeah, so as part of our design process and the advancement of the up to award of this project, part of our, bid, the NEPA, which is an acronym, unfortunately, the National Environmental Policy Act. We are required to look at the impacts on the built environment inside of the areas where we're going to be delivering these stations. So, things like, increased foot traffic, increased vehicular traffic, impacts to surrounding buildings and structures. So all of that was done prior to the award of this contract. And if you go to that website that I posted, and it'll be in the presentation, or if you go to mta.info and go to the projects and then toggle to the Penn Station Access Project, all of that environmental information, it's extremely comprehensive, is there on the website.
Have you done any economic impact studies?
There is, so not only do we do economic impact studies, but Department of City Planning, if you go to their webpage, they've done some considerable amount of economic impact studies, but also, the transportation industry as a whole does economic impacts. And there's a formula, for, like, for instance, every $1 billion worth of transit funding that goes into transit, X amount of jobs are export, as well as economic impact. So that information's on the website as well.
Okay,
I have a question.
thank you, Joe.
Yep.
Speaking of jobs, I know you said that you engage in a lot of community engagement. Are there any plans for local hire with these projects in the Pacific?
So yes and no. Up until 2022 and the Biden administration's Build It Back Better, my hands, and when I say my collectively, the FTA's hands were tied with regard to our federal funding. The FTA, Federal Transit Administration, dictated that we were not allowed to geographically restrict our contractors' hiring practice. So I could not say, Mr. Contractor, you need to hire X amount of people from this particular community, or I would potentially lose the funding for this project. Fast forward to 2022, and we now do have a pilot program in place. The federal government put in place a pilot program where they are encouraging, not requiring, but encouraging local hiring. The good news is that is in place, and moving forward, we'll be able to put that in our contracts. The bad news with regard to this project is that wasn't available to us when this contract was executed in 2021. So it is not part of this project. One of the ways that we sort of tried to make the marriage there, or marry the best of both worlds before I could tell my contractor what he could or couldn't do, is we did local hiring events in areas where we were executing projects of this nature, mega projects, where there was going to be millions, if not billions of dollars spent in these communities. So we had a jobs event in Morris Park in 2022, where we brought out the Building and Construction Trades Council of Greater New York. They brought out 15 unionized apprenticeship programs. They brought out their non-traditional apprenticeship programs, their early entry and direct entry programs. And I brought out from MTA, the talent and acquisition team, from the MTA to talk about civil service opportunities. NYPD, FDNY, DOB were all there to talk about civil service opportunities. So while I can't my contractor what he can or can't do with regard to hiring. We are trying to bring the opportunities to the public so that we can hopefully make a marriage there.
Right, Joe, although you don't have requirements, there are goals set for X amount of hiring of, like, let's say, women, right?
So there are minority and women, there are M and WBE goals, disadvantaged business and women-owned business goals. Yeah, it's 30%, it's 15%, 15% disadvantaged and 6% service veterans.
Okay.
Another question. And like projects
And
like
just
these-
if I could, just before we move on off of that point, I just also wanted to point out too that our contractor, in an effort to be a good neighbor, also held a contracting event where they invited out all of the Bronx essentially to come here and get information from them about what their needs are going to be for goods and services over the life of this project, so that they can contract and hire locally, from and procure those goods and services from within the Bronx. So, in an effort to be a good neighbor, they were doing that as well. So kudos to them for that.
And like projects like these usually bring a lot more foot traffic and commercial traffic. So like, do you have any plans or strategy in place to ensure that the community is clean within that area? Like, it doesn't, downfall or anything like that?
Yeah, so Metro North is going to be required to maintain and keep the stations clean. There's a lot of security enhancements. There's help points, CCTV, alarm systems, those blue light alarm systems as part of this station, as well as not only will these stations be monitored by NYPD, but also MTA, M&R PD. So there's definitely a lot of enhancements from that standpoint too.
All right, thank you.
You got a question? Miguel, I see your hand is raised. You got a question?
Hello.
Hey, Miguel, how are you?
Just quickly, I know that you said that some of the funding was going to be Build Back Better. And I understand that there's a union requirement attached to any federal money that comes from that program. Does that apply to this project? And if so, does it apply to subcontractors also?
So I'll work backwards. Yes, it does apply to subcontractors as well, but it does not apply to this particular contract because, as I mentioned, this contract was awarded before that pilot program was in place. But moving forward, so on 4 of my other more recent projects that I have going around the boroughs, we do have that local hiring goal. It's a 20% goal in place, and it's if the contractor is unable to meet his goals, he can also, there's also the encouragement for the subs to employ locally as well to help meet that goal.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a question.
Rabbi,
Hello?
go ahead. Go ahead,
Okay.
Rabbi.
So I'm going to give you a scenario. So let's say I live on Morris Park Avenue and Pelham Parkway North, and I have to work on West 38th Street and 7th Avenue. So I have 2 choices. I could go straight to Botanical Gardens and drive, or I take a bus to Fordham Road and go to Grand Central and then take the shuttle across. Or somehow, some way, I could get to your Morris Park station, which does not have any parking, and walk or bus it or whatever, and go that way, straight to Penn Station. Which way, I don't know if you can answer this one, I guess, which way would you recommend a common person to do it like me? And number 2, financially, which is going to be the better route to go? And number 3, which has been an eternal question of mine, your trains coming into Morris Park might not have any seats left. At Fordham Road, a lot of people get off because they go to Fordham University, and there are seats. So that's my scenario question, and I appreciate your response.
Thank you, Rabbi. I appreciate the question. I mean, it's slightly speculative in that, we'll have to wait and see how robust people, at least initially, how many folks, how packed the trains are going to be. And then Metro North is going to, implement an initial service plan and then be able to tweak that service plan as they get a better sense of how how well utilized this new service is going to be. So I can't speak from fannies in the seats just yet until we're actually running the trains. Right now, my understanding is that they plan on running 3 trains an hour in the peak hours and 2 in the off peak to start to see how that goes. And then they will adjust accordingly. From a fare standpoint, again, that'll be, we're talking 2027 revenue service year, still 4 years out, 3 years almost, because we're almost at the end of 2023. But so let's call it 3 years. So we don't know what the financial climate is going to be and what Metro North, a typical Metro North fare is going to be. I do know that they are considering and contemplating a reduced fare similar to that Long Island Railroad utilizes for their city ticket. So there will be some similar discounted fare for these stations to go into the Bronx. At least that's what they're contemplating at this point. Again, don't know, final details until we get closer to service. And then I guess the third part of your question is, absent someplace to park in these areas, we just completed, the MTA that is, just completed their Bronx bus network redesign. So in a lot of these areas, we're going to be taking another good hard look, and our bus department is already, aware of the fact that this service is going to be coming online in 2027. So there may be an opportunity to implement shuttles or things of that nature if needed as we get closer to revenue service. But so a lot of this stuff is on the table and being contemplated as we speak, but no definitives.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Roger, you're a board member. Do you have a question?
No question.
Wendy.
Kevin raised his hand.
Wendy,
Yes.
you're a board member? I'm trying to remember the new names.
Yes, I am. I'm a board member.
Do you have a question?
I guess the only question that I have or concern is, would this presentation be presented to full board? And the concern that I have, and this is why minutes are important. You mentioned land use. Is this something that was also discussed in the land use committee?
This has been discussed and
Since 2011.
Yeah, since 2011,
And it will continue. It will continue to be, but yeah.
stuff like this presentation does not get brought to full board. We don't have the time to do that for full board. We've done numerous town halls for it where it was totally dedicated for this topic.
Okay, just considering the importance of this, I'm pretty sure with the presentation be submitted to full board, that should be included in the full board's minutes.
Well, we are recording this, so any
That's
full
not the same. That's not the same. The presentation, if MTA is going to allow the presentation to be public, they should allow the members to have a copy.
Yeah, no, we've already presented, we've already given the copy of the presentation to the transportation committee. You guys can do it with it.
It's on our website. It's on our website.
It's been given numerous times.
Okay, that's good. I'll look for it in the full board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who? Oh, Kadian. I'm sorry please, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name. Kadian, you're a board member. Do you have a question?
Hi, good evening, everyone. It's my first time on these meetings. I just have a question about when this project was being, I guess, first brought to fruition, there was any thought about the communities in the area and like property value and how this might impact with the noise and all those things. I know there's a lot of bonus and plus to this project being put forward, but I know you hear ice cream in the background. Sorry. I'm just thinking about the neighborhoods. I know that there's gonna be a lot of benefits. I'm thinking,
So,
part of the
so
whole.
somebody asked the question about the environmental impact analysis and the, you know, the various analysis that went into place. So there was that study as well in terms of noise on the surrounding community, not only from the delivery of the project and the construction, but also from the, you know, the increase in service and what the addition of the trains, you know, along the alignment are going to do. So there was, and that's also on the website, in 2 areas that were identified where there's homes really close to the tracks. You know, they were determined to have what we would consider elevated impacts based on the decibels there, and the homes in those areas were given the option of they were asked whether they would prefer us to build a wall, a sound attenuation wall in that area, or whether they would prefer to have their windows replaced to double paned, you know, noise reducing windows, and the vast majority of them opted for the windows.
Windows are great.
Guys, let me just jump in here a minute. I was just reminded that, all the participants should really have their cameras on as per our open meetings law. So if you don't mind, and you are able to, can you just put your cameras on, please? Thank you.
That applies whether you're a board member or not.
Yes.
So all of these little names that I'm seeing, people, you need to put your cameras on
As per the open.
as per
meetings
the
law.
open meetings law.
As per the Borough President's office. Okay.
Do we have any more questions for Joe?
Kevin, I see your hand up.
Answer the questions. Sorry.
Kevin?
Yep, I'm getting a video up for you. I don't recall that, but I'm gonna just ask what I had asked earlier for Joe. Joe, nice presentation. I appreciate it. You know, big question for everybody is usually like the parking and the drop-off areas, you know, and I understand that's got nothing to do with the MTA. That's outside your fencing. So we'd like to bring that up to the city and the planning rather than to the MTA. But I had asked,
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, yeah, please come tomorrow, or, you know, that, you know, participate in one of the next meetings with Council Land Use and the and this Department of City Planning, because that's definitely, you know, a hot button issue for them. They're definitely on that.
and clarify the rabbi, the 2 train lines he mentioned, the Fordham Road is totally different than this Metro North Ford New Station train line. It's 2 separate lines completely. As far as it being overloaded with people or not, I'm not sure, but just to clarify. So I'd asked a question about the last 2 slides, and I don't expect you to have an answer, but, you know, this is where my concerns are, would be, you know, construction timing and things like that. So I had asked on the last 2 slides, you have a street impact on Eastchester Road and on Bronxdale Avenue. And they both have start dates, and they have estimated, you know, workloads of 6 months. I did see you had another slide that shows that their percentage being done. 15, I think it was, and 25% on one of the slides. Are they on schedule? Because they're actually holding up 2 other presentations that were presented to Community Board 11 for bike lanes and a bike network on Eastchester Road.
They are on schedule right now. I mean, we are heading into, hopefully, knock on wood, not too soon, but, you know, bad weather months. So obviously, when we say approximately 6 months, we're trying to factor in there may be some curveballs thrown our way. But right now, things are on schedule, barring any unforeseen circumstances.
Okay, let you know we're looking. Thank you.
Thank you.
Roxanne, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I have 2 quick statements. I'd like to thank the board member Wendy for addressing this issue regarding the presentation attached to the minutes, because this presentation was not attached to the agenda till this afternoon after I made a request to the CB11 staff. They did not respond to my email, but we have to include the presentation to all agendas so we can follow along or be prepared before the meetings. My statement of questions to Joe for MTA, please. Sorry to use first name, Mr. O'Donnell.
No, Joe's fine, please.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. The 4th station, initially, were they on city property, and had they been transferred to MTA stock? And does that mean that it restricts public use? under MTA property. Can you please explain that for me briefly?
So the vast majority, as I mentioned, of the project itself and the stations, the platforms, will be inside the Amtrak right of way. Where we do come out into the public domain, in some instances, is for the vertical circulation elements, the the staircases or the elevators. So we would be either acquiring or working out an agreement if it's city property for those areas with the city.
Thank you for that. And a quick question: will you have commissary stands in these 4 stations?
I don't, it's like newspaper stands and things like that.
Yeah, you do have some in your some of your stations, not in the Fordham Road station, but
right.
you do have some.
No, but I just want to make sure I understand your question. That's what you're talking about, is like a
Yeah,
newspaper stand.
coffee.
I don't think so. I think there's going to be, obviously there's going to be ticket vending and I believe vending, but let me double check and I'll get back to Jeremy and the board on that as far as whether there's going to be any sort of retail operations inside the stations. I don't believe so, but let me confirm.
Thank you.
We asked that already. A long time ago about retail.
Okay, all right. I don't see any other hands raised.
What about the chat?
I don't look, I don't.
All right, so
All right, so if there's no other questions, I'm gonna end this session.
Much, everybody. I appreciate having you all having us here. Look forward to seeing maybe some of you tomorrow at the city work and speaking with you in the future.
Thank you,
so
Joe.
much, Joe. Thank you so much. Chris, do you want to go over the street permits?
Well, it's just one of them that just.
Let him talk. Let him.
We can't do it, we can't
Let
vote.
him talk, please. I know, we can. I already told him.
Okay,
ahead.
it was only one permit that they requested. They supposedly put it in on September 7th. But I'm looking, as of this moment, I looked into the system, then don't show up. It's Dervish Adult Care. They want to have a block party for appreciation for whatever they do, the services.
Come tonight.
And that's it. Yeah, I invited them to come tonight. They didn't come, they didn't respond. And it doesn't show on the system, at SAPOS system. So that's about it.
Does that mean they withdrew?
Chris. What I'm curious as to all of the stuff that's on the back of this paper here.
Jeremy put it over there since you requested for them to be viewed, but it's nothing over there. Those are all renewals.
Even though there's issues
With
ones that I know that there's issues with, and I didn't even know of this to be done. So
what do you mean by done? Done mean that they're cooked, or done what?
to be voted on.
We have said it. I mean, I don't understand. You keep bringing up the same issue over and over. Let's clear it one. I was told, or that was voted long time by the board, that if it's a renewal, it shouldn't be brought up.
But what I'm saying is, even if it's a renewal, if there was an issue, we had no clue until like probably 6 o'clock for the half of us of any of the stuff on the back of this sheet. So we couldn't even reach out to NYPD for the facts that were told to us of issues of ones that
All of them are pending at this moment.
Excuse me?
All of them are pending at this moment.
Even ones for Friday and Saturday?
So far, I look in the system, it has a big P, pending.
I don't get this.
It's simple, pending.
What?
Yeah, please, Malcolm.
So I'm gonna go into my naiveness in this one because I know I've asked this question before, but can you please break down step by step as to how we go about the SAPOs, like the new SAPOs along with the renewal SAPOs? Like how are we processing those? And like for these specific ones, when did we get notification for them?
Can you speak a little bit louder? I'm sorry.
It's,
Can you? Oh, go ahead. How am I doing this today? Can you please break down for us the process for the SAPOs, both new SAPOs and renewal SAPOs, and how they are processed within our system once they're come in, please?
Okay, so.
And like, when did these come in also?
Okay, so all the organizations, private citizens, and so on and so forth, if they're willing to do a block party, they have to notify to put it in with SAPO within the 30 days, 60 days. Then they have to notify us. It happens that Dervish Adult Center, they notified us on the, let me look at an email. Because I just give me 1 second. He notified us on September 20. And I replied to her on the 25th and notified her to show up tonight, since this is a brand new activity.
Okay. All right.
So
And
far, they
I also-
haven't responded.
all right, I don't see that one on here, but also I see there are two that are supposed to be kicking off this week and another one next week. So what is the process for those? Because I'm thinking in my head that we should have approved this as a full board last week or something like that.
If it's repeats, we always pass them without bringing them in. That's about it. That was the last decision made long ago.
Who made this decision?
That was, I should say, 2 years ago from the chair of
Made
the
the
committee.
decision, Chris.
I'm sorry?
The committee made the decision like 2 years
Correct.
ago.
But
Yeah.
so the committee makes the final decision that doesn't come to the full board at all?
On
Because
renewal.
that was the request. Always the committee makes the decision.
Is
I
that
mean, the committee wants to change course, they can at any point.
I've been asking for that to be changed for a while. That's number one. Number two,
So Debbie, make a motion.
I make
Did
a
somebody
motion.
second? Oh yeah, you can't vote. That's
We
the problem.
can't make a motion.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My mistake. Sorry. I'll step out. Sorry.
It's fine. It's fine.
But this, sorry, but the one on Friday, I've never heard of Ayaba.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's the assemblyman. It's
That's the new.
the Yemeni.
Which, hold on a second, it's new, which is going back to my point. It's not recurring. I've never seen that before.
No one's just saying AYAB is not.
No, perfect. But it's a new permit. I've never heard. NIDC, I've seen it for years. Ain't no doubt on that. Right, I understand that.
But regardless, me personally as a board member, I think that we should be able to look at all of these things, whether it's renewal or it's new. I know that on the housing committee, we did implement something where when the new developments come in, major ones, they get emailed to the full committee. Is it possible we can get these things emailed to the full board once they come in, just so we know that it's there and we're able to analyze it ourselves and take a look at it? Is that something that's possible?
Yeah. It's like the street names and all that.
Yeah. Because I personally, I didn't know about these things until this morning from an email by Mr. Delgado, and personally, I felt blindsided with that.
I felt even more blindsided because I am on the committee and I didn't even get this until I looked online an hour ago.
Again, Debbie, because he keep pushing it, it has been voted 2 years ago that reapplied or renewals shouldn't come in front of the committee.
But, and I've said it many times before, I mean,
Debbie, but you can put whatever you said it many times before. The point is you're gonna put it in a motion.
Excuse me. Let me finish my sentence.
Come on, let's.
Let me
Because you
finish
keep
my
repeating
sentence.
yourself. It's the same thing. Go ahead.
I've said before,
Mhm.
even if it is a renewal and you're just gonna keep on brushing it past and whatnot, even if it is a renewal, we should, as a committee, have known last month. I understand we don't have it in the summer, but in future months going on, we should have known 30 days prior, 60 days prior, and not less than 1 week prior, not less than 2 weeks prior. Somebody.
Yeah, I got what you're saying. All right, so going forward, I know that you guys don't have quorum today. You can make a motion for next month to change this.
I
But
can't
please-
make a
No,
motion.
next month,
Next
come on,
month.
come on.
Oh, next year, yeah.
Or
If people show up.
or we do the full board. But the notification, that motion does not stop the notification at all, right?
Exactly.
So please, I will love the notification gets sent to the full board. Bernadette, is that
Well, you
something-
already have one already now for next year, 2024. Starting there.
motion, but you're able to have it notified to the full board.
I'm not expecting this 2024. I respect
It's everybody notified that.
I
these things
respect
are-
being notified for 2024. I respect that.
All right, yes, notifications. We just want notifications also.
As administrators.
We
Even, in other words, I'm sorry, even if it's renewals, but renewals unless there's issues with something, then the renewals probably, I mean, they should at least let the committee know, even if it's a renewal.
right.
So, I mean.
And that's what I've been
agree with
saying
that.
for a while.
So we'll fix it.
How are you telling me as a committee member of something that's happening Friday? How are you telling me as a committee member
I know what
something's
you're
happening
saying.
Saturday? How are you telling me as a
So
committee
we could
member
do-
something happens
so-
next week?
Yo, I hear you. Said it 3 times, girlfriend.
No, but how do you do that?
Right.
Well,
How do you do that?
I'm
And
asking
if
you
I have an issue, if I'm working all day, how do I go to get my stuff to show you of this issue? If there is an issue, I want to bring the
As the chair
evidence.
and the co-chair also of this committee, exactly what they, how things have been done in the past. That's my whole point.
Hazel?
The past everything's just been brushed off.
Okay, so
No,
First of
hold on.
all-
I mean, Hazel, hold on, because she keeps saying things and she's kind of, blaming the staff, blaming the ex. Let's take it easy first. We used to do it, we used to bring people and used to come about 30 people. You have been present and you know very well, you can look at the recordings. Used to be 30 people in the office just to say, hey, good morning, good evening, whatever. Oh, you're here. Yes, you have this activity. Have a nice day. And we decided not to bring them anymore.
Right.
So don't tell me about that, we brush them off. You guys decided 2 years ago not to bring people in. And that's what I'm following up. Whatever you guys decide. So make a motion now, or make it whenever.
Okay.
And we start from the beginning.
All right, okay.
Hello,
come on.
wait, can you
All right,
guys
we'll
just
make the
hold
motion.
on a minute? First of all, we cannot make any motions right now because we
Okay.
don't have a quorum. We have done it in the past and Chris is right, when I used to be on transportation before, we had people come in for 2 minutes and then they would leave. If there's a street activity permit that occurs every single year and we have no issues with them, we don't ask them to come because we know that it is occurring. We've never had an issue. Now, if there is an issue with one of these permits, that's a little different. That's something that you can bring up. But you guys, I wasn't here when you voted. I just got on this committee again a couple of months ago. So if they voted 2 years ago to do it this way and it's been working for 2 years, then that's fine. If you want to change it, then that's something that we're going to have to talk about in the future. We cannot discuss it tonight because we can't really vote on it. So you have a problem with one of these applications, the AYAB. But if it's on this list, it must mean that it's occurred before and we had no issues with it.
But I think the point is the notification that's occurring, right? There's one thing to say just renew it, but there's no notification to anyone saying that this is being renewed and we're allowing it to go through.
If
Right?
it's,
Nobody
but,
knew.
but Chris said if it's on this list, that means that it is a renewal. We
We
had
didn't
one
list it
new,
today.
excuse me, we had one new application. They were invited to come. It was a new application and new applicants do have to come before the committee. They did not show up. We have no reason, we don't know why. So we
Hazel,
will reach out to them to see why they didn't come.
I understand what you're
But
saying, Hazel, but
everything that's,
I'm
every-
saying, go ahead.
every application that's on this list is a renewal. And we haven't had issues with in the past.
And also,
Right.
can I add something, Hazel? Also, it's certain activities that bypass the board. Like, for example, the AUB or AUB, whatever, it has to do about the Yemeni, but is organized by the Assemblyman Zakaro.
Right.
That bypasses us. It's also activities that are in Allerton Avenue that are done by then Assemblywoman Fernandez, now the senator, that bypass us. There were activities done by then Councilman Jonah that bypass us. So it's a bunch of them. Now, you want to be notified of the list. You got to understand this list can start in January and get updated every 3 months. What I'm going to do every 3 months, I'm going to update it and put it at the end of the agenda for the Transportation Committee meeting. It's okay with you guys. It's going to be repeats. It's going to be repeats, but I'm going to update it every 3 months.
That's fine. And if anybody has discussion, then we can discuss it. That's fine. We can't vote on it, but it sounds like a plan.
Is there any way to denote which ones are new and which ones are renewals? Because maybe other people who have not been have not seen a lot of these before, they're taking them, oh, they must be new. But somewhere noted, renewal, and then the ones that are new could be separate.
I think, I can't remember, but I think we used to bold the new ones, right? Or something like that. We
Yes.
did.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, that's how we used to do it.
So
We
that's
would
the
bold,
distinction.
right.
Because right here, all of these, none of these are bold. So even, you know, the AYIB, the Block Party, I'm just saying, I've never seen them have a block party, and they've only been in existence, what, 2 or 3
Okay,
years?
you guys have to understand, like Chris was saying, not all these permits come to us. Sometimes they're sent to the SAPO office and the SAPO just sends them to the police. They don't necessarily come to us. Like he said, sometimes they bypass the community board. Granted, every application should come to us, but sometimes they don't.
A lot of times they don't, I know.
Yeah, so we can only do what we can do. We can only do what we have control over.
So basically, all of these none of these are bold, that's on this list. So all of these are renewals.
Correct.
Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And as you can see, 3 of them are repeats because it was put in July, it was put in September, in August, and it's put again in August 3 times. One of them is 3 times mentioned. The Allerton Jazz, whatever it's called over there, pop, whatever.
Right. Now we see there's 2 that are doubles, similar.
Yeah.
Actually, 3 are the same.
Questions?
About the permits?
Yeah,
Okay.
just for my own edification.
Cynthia's got a question.
So if an application has bypassed the board, how does it end up then back on our radar? I'm just curious. This is really.
This is not our list. This is the list from SAPO that I have access. Because you gotta understand, with SAPO, it's a section that agencies can input, which means NYPD, Department of Consumer Affairs, Fire Department, Sanitation, they have to put inputs, especially NYPD.
Thank you.
We can input too. We can put ours, either we recommend denial, emphasizing recommend denial, or recommend approval. We cannot deny or we cannot approval. It's up to SAPO.
So when they come, when it crosses our path, since we are only advisory, we will make recommendations, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, so even though SAPO has basically stamped their approval, it needs to come to us to give feedback. So in other words, because it's in our communities, so we need to basically say, you know, this is not going to work because, well, first of all, many of these are happening within a 30-day, which ours is 60 to 120 days. So right then and there, you know, it doesn't work with our guidelines.
So,
But it depends on what kind of a permit it is. Yeah. Some are 30 days, some are 60 days, and some are 90 days. Depends if you're having a festival, a block party, or some other event. It all depends on what kind of event it is and what kind of permit you're putting in. Now, they don't just give it a stamp of approval. They go through their motions. They come to the community board, they go to the NYPD, and they get the input from those two agencies and whoever else they send it to. They don't just say, okay, well, you know, this is a repeat, we're going to approve this. No, they have to go through their steps. And then once they get the information, now just because we say no, doesn't mean that they're going to say no.
Right.
You know, it's not up to us, but they do give us the courtesy of, you know, our feedback. But, you know, it is up to them. And once they get that feedback, they make the determination. I know that because I've been putting permits in forever.
Wendy, did you
this
stand up?
is not set on stone. If you guys want to reverse it, and we're going to see even repeats to come in the office and everybody to come to the office.
That is a waste of time. It's a waste of our time to do that. Unless we have an issue with any repeated event, no, let's leave things the way they are for now, and we'll discuss it in the future if we have to. Can we please move on?
Okay, no, I just think it's important to be able to answer questions on this because it is confusing. It's confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's confusing because
it's not real. It's not
What?
really confusing. It's not really that confusing.
Well, you know, unless you do it all the time. So that's you know.
Bernadette, it's always the fact that we are an advisory board, either for liquor licenses, either for street activity permits.
Yes.
The only thing that, you know, really we kind of put a lot of impact on, it has to do with land use, about zone changing, and so on and so forth. I mean, sometimes the agencies take our opinion into consideration, sometimes they just ignore it. Now, it's up to you guys. Like with liquor licenses, if it's a repeat, we don't bring them in. If it's brand new, we bring them in because questions are asked.
Right, and we and that was at the full board meeting. We did discuss that.
Right. So with this one, if you guys want to call all of the new ones, are more than welcome. Actually, like I say, I checked the video.
Somebody mute Rabbi.
That's got to be
Hi,
Rabbi.
Chris, it's Rabbi. I'm in traffic. I have to cut out of the meeting, okay? I have to cut out.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
That was Rabbi in an emergency, I guess. He had the sirens on.
Yeah.
So if it's new, like I said, I even checked it on the system. She's not even in the system. Even though she claims that she put it in September 9. I'm sorry, September 7.
Okay. That's why you asked her to come in.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Debbie, you can speak out loud, Debbie. We are here. Whatever your frustration it is, please let us hear it.
No, there was a private question that was asked of me.
Oh,
Thank you.
Yep.
Can I say something, please?
Yes, Cynthia.
I just think that we all need to kind of shift our mindset away from, feeling resigned to the fact that we are just an advisory board. Yes, we are just an advisory board, but we are an advisory board. And when we say, well, we're just advisory, it almost implies that it doesn't matter. And if it doesn't matter, then why are we all here? Why are we sitting here? Well, that's.
Yeah, if I took the time out of my night when I gotta go to sleep early, because I'm waking up at 4 a.m.
Because there are times when, as an advisory board, our opinions, because they're neighborhoods and we have more information, that it is important to them and they do take it in. So advisory is important.
I agree.
Yeah, so, unfortunately with SAPO, I mean, I got frustrated also. I'm like, why is it coming to us if they're already stamping it and it goes?
Well, I mean.
But we still need to have input.
Right.
It's still important to have input.
Right.
That's why we're at this meeting and that's why it's important. So.
Right. They don't stamp it until they hear from everybody. It's not, like I said before, it's not like they get the permit and they're like, oh, okay, it's approved. No, they make us jump through hoops to get these permits, believe me. Because I know you have to put in a lot of paperwork and you have to do a lot of explaining and uploading documents. It's not an easy process. They do not make it easy, and you have to have all your T's crossed and all your I's dotted. So, and if we did have an issue with any permit in the past, any event in the past, and we let them know about it, they will take our recommendation into consideration because they have in the past. So Cynthia, you're right. We're not, we may just be an advisory board to everybody else, but these agencies do listen to us when push comes to shove.
But not only that, I mean, the main agency that really puts the input, and it's very important, it's NYPD.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's a big issue, I'm always in contact with Community Affairs 49 Precinct, especially with Police Officer Graham, that is in charge of giving out, especially the sound permits that are considered so.
Mm-hmm.
You should know very well, Hazel, because one of the activities that is on the list is NIDC. So,
Jeremy, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I put it in the chat. I just want to remind everybody that the city will bypass this if they want. If it's that important to them, I mean, yes, we're advisory. It does mean something. We do we're a buffer. But ultimately, if the city wants, they will bypass us.
All right.
I mean, it doesn't mean that we're completely, invalid, or, I mean, we do have, with the street activity permits, they do tend to listen to us a little bit more, but at the same time, sometimes community boards can be very unreasonable.
All right, if we can't vote on this, I recommend we move on to old business and new business, because I do have to go to bed soon, and I took the time to come here in person, and I would like to go home and go to sleep. So
okay, well, I did want to move on about 10 minutes ago. We do have the gallery session. I don't know if there's anybody left that wants to say anything.
Camilla, I see your hand raised. Camilla?
Yes, hello, do you hear me?
Yes, I hear you now.
Yes, hello, is it okay to take just 1 minute, really?
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Hello, my name is Camelia Tepelus. I'm the Morris Park Business Improvement District Executive Director. Thank you so much for giving me the time in the gallery now. I just want to update you in your quality as a Traffic and Transportation Committee member, and asking you for support on a matter. You probably know Bronx is the borough with the highest rate of childhood asthma. People suffer from respiratory diseases at probably the highest rates in the nation. And a big part of this is unfortunately the contribution of Robert Moses at the Cross Bronx Expressway that literally divides the Bronx and has significant amount of truck traffic and contributes to pollution and really a very negative impact of everybody's safety. With advocacy from several organizations, a large $2 million study is being undertaken currently by the state DOT, city DOT, Department of City Planning, and NYC Health. And Morris Park Bid, along with 9 other organizations, was selected to be a community partner. So from this point of view, I'm asking for everybody that is interested in this issue and has an interest in the kind of long-term air quality all around us to go to crossbronx.info. It's a government website, crossbronx.info, and on the top right there is a take our survey button. It's a survey that's fairly short, I would say 5 to 10 minutes, available in English and Spanish. Basically, City DOT is looking for everybody's input, whether you live close by, whether you live far away, whether you drive on it, whether you use it to go to work, shopping, etc., etc. If you could share your experiences on how you use the Cross Bronx, and if you ever got stuck, if you ever, I don't know, sanitation, absolutely anything. They're looking both for qualitative and quantitative feedback, and that would be very useful to inform this study. For those interested, also on the same website and on the Morris Park Bid social media, there are also super interesting almost weekly tours. The next one is actually on this Saturday, and the following one is in 2 weeks from now. Basically looking at different sections of the Cross Bronx and seeing the conditions surrounding this very important highway. Just to say thank you again, I would send Jeremy the link if he would be so kind and introduce it to the minutes. There are also workshops and webinars and all kinds of things that DOT is organizing. Again, with the main purpose of listening to the community and making sure that there is a vision moving forward with minimizing these impacts. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Roxanne, you got your hand up?
Okay, yes, I do. Well, I do
Thank
have
you.
concerns again because I keep hearing advisory for some reason. But many agencies don't have executive or legislative abilities. The community board function is to gather input from the community that is mostly impacted, basically communities that live nearby the site that is questioned. So I really get very frustrated when the full board meetings agenda and these committee agendas don't have the links. And I sent an email earlier to the staff asking for the links to these permits so I can see if they were anywhere nearby Palm Parkway, because if they are, I would like to look more closely if there's any concerns that should be expressed or notified to the community. So the board is not to decide amongst yourself what you think is best for our community. It's to gather input from the community, especially for community that lives nearby that site, to express, because NYPD is doing a good job, but they don't know everything. It's a community that knows. It's a community that informs NYPD a lot of time, like myself, what goes on my block or nearby my block. So I really hope that you guys will start putting. I mean the staff putting these like the board member Wendy. I apologize for not remembering her last name. Puts the like I requested all the documentation to the links to be discussed, so the community could look at it, and if we have concerns, we'll bring it up to you, so you could bring it up to the agencies or powers that be. That's what I'm asking. Public notification, because it's public that is mostly impacted. Many board members don't even live in the area that is being addressed today. So I'm just saying, please, going forward, please, as the open meeting law requires, put these presentations and these permits or whatever to the full board meeting. You didn't even put the questionnaire to the hunting club, and there's issues with regarding that club, which I won't even discuss here because it's not the place or time. But and also, going next month, is it possible to invite DOT to give us an update on the Bronxdale road diet? It's been over a year now, and they did say they were going to provide update after to give the community, to give them time to see how this diet was going to work, and they were going to provide us an update. So can you invite them next month or the following month to do an update on Bronxdale road diet, because it impacts a large community that has a lot of concerns about it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roxanne. That's a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any new business? No new business? I guess we're gonna adjourn the meeting?
Unless anybody else has any other issues or concern they want to bring up? Okay, so, meeting is adjourned at 8:38.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Enjoy the rest of your evening.